In this week's episode of Studio Inter, we'll be reviewing the win against Udinese. We'll be previewing the Champions League opener against Slavia Prague, the upcoming derby against Milan, one-on-one with ESPN FC's Andrew Cesare, this week's Moggi, Moratti and Frog, and much, much more. Everything here on Studio Inter, only on SempreInter.com.
Per De Vrij, c'è la torre per Messina, l'ha presa! L'ha ripresa Messina! L'ha ripresa Messina! Il Toro! Il Toro! Il Toro! Il tiro! Samir! Mandanovic! La recupera Brozovic, andiamo in contropiede, la porta è vuota, tira, attenzione, è gol!
Benvenuti, bentornati to another edition of Studio Inter. I'm your host, Nima Tavallaey, wishing you welcome after a lovely 3 points added to the Antonio Conte era. The tally, a perfect start, just continues being perfect. But before we get into all of that, I'd like to welcome our panelists all the way from Florida, Mr. Alex Donno, the host of the Alex Donno Show. Welcome, man. How are you?
It's Stefano Sensi's world, and we're all just living in it. How are you?
Amen. We are also joined by the SempreInter preview writer, Mr. Mohamed Nassar.
Hey, everyone. Great to be back. Quick turnaround this week, so excited about everything that's going on.
I agree, couldn't agree more. And we're also joined by the former SempreInter.com writer, Mr. Will Beckman. Welcome, Will.
Good afternoon, or good evening, or good morning, or good whatever. It's good. Inter won.
Amen. And we are also joined for the very first time by Andrew Cesare Richardson. He is part of the ESPN FC crew who covers Italian football, making his Studio Inter debut. Mr. Andrew Richardson, welcome.
Thank you, Nima. Thank you very much for the invite. Yeah, I look forward to being here.
It's good to have you. Right, let's get right into it. You and I have been following each other on Twitter for quite some time. You've been doing a lot of excellent work on ESPN covering the Serie A, and so I wanted to ask you a little bit about what the Cagliari incident, where the Cagliari fans were hurling racist abuse at Romelu Lukaku, because you were I remember you tweeted out that you had spoken to to people at the Serie A, and what did they tell you? What was their explanation and reaction to all of this?
Yeah, so I actually initially spoke to them after the lack of action for Moise Kean, and this was a continuation of that discussion when they told me after that it was not part of their jurisdiction, which I felt was quite a strange thing to say, given that they had just said they were looking into it. And basically, what they said to me was that they had a person at the game who did not report anything. So that was why they worded it as if they didn't call it a racist incident, they called it an incident which was picked up on TV and on social media. Which I think is quite strange. And then they said that...
Oh dear, yeah.
Yeah, because they picked up via afterwards, they're now looking into it again. Now, whilst I know that Antonio Conte said he didn't hear that, Antonio Conte isn't there to listen out for racist abuse. If that is your job, then I think you have to ask questions about why they have a person at the game who is not able to pick up what is very, very clear to everyone else at the game.
I mean, as you said, Antonio Conte not listening to it, it's because he's focused on his team. And like you said, I wouldn't expect him to hear it. And besides, it was so loud. It wasn't social media. It was on the international feed. I mean, the commentator everyone heard it. It was watching the game all over the world. Like, this Italian thing about I don't know anything. I don't know.
Yeah, it's terrible. It's terrible.
Yeah, this sweeping under the rug stuff. I mean, I call it the Italian okie doke. It's just sweep it under the rug. No one saw it. Right. Will, did you have a question for Andrew?
I did, yes. Hello, Andrew. Thanks for coming on our podcast. Obviously, Romelu Lukaku has been involved in some rather nasty headlines over the last couple of weeks. But whether you've been you were covering his move to Inter quite a lot over the summer. Obviously, he wasn't the only player to move from Manchester United to Inter this summer. So I was wondering, as somebody who's based in England, if you could help us work out whether Romelu Lukaku and Alexis Sanchez really are as compatible as we've been told, because we know they had a bit of time together at United. They had a few games together, and there's been a lot made about how they're great friends. But do you think they are going to work together in a front two for Antonio Conte? I mean, I know we've seen some clips that go around on social media of their sort of combination play at United, but that's always not really a great parameter, because that's like one action. That doesn't really tell you whether that sort of can be repeated or whatnot. So do you think that that's a viable front two, based on also on what little we saw of Sanchez last night, or do you think that Lautaro Martinez is a better bet to play with Inter's new front man?
Well, firstly, I think that, as with all transfers, I feel as though, like, you look at what they did at United, and I think that, like, you have to take into account the different systems that they played in, the constant changes. And I feel as though, like, first of all, Lukaku is far, far more adept at playing in an Antonio Conte system than he was Jose Mourinho or Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. So that's the first thing about, like, what I would take from his move. I think I expect more from him here, because I feel as though there's a stronger focus. I think it's just more suited to his game. And in terms of his relationship with Sanchez, I think you have to take it again. I have to take into account the time at which they were at United. It was not. It's just been an absolute, not a disaster, but it's just been an absolute mess. And they've both been kind of caught in this storm. And I think also, like, it's been very difficult for them to sort of be the players that they were expected to be. Lukaku, because of the fee, like, obviously it was an extremely expensive transfer at the time, and Sanchez, because of, he came as this electric player in the Premier League, and so much was expected of him. And I don't think we should take too much of the fact that, like, their time at United, and look at it how they will do at Inter. I think that they will combine well. I think that Sanchez knows the league. I think that, like, he's going to a place where, like, it's going to be all about him, and I think that, like, that will help him. But whether they'll play ahead of Lautaro Martinez, I'm not too sure, because I'm a big fan of Lautaro Martinez, and I think that I'd still hope that Martinez will get his chance. I would still hope that he'll get some decent game time. But yeah, I think that, like, I really think, as difficult as it is, I just think we can't really read too much into what happened at United, because I do think that, like, it's just no one seems to succeed at United at the moment. And I think that, like, Inter fans can it's almost like a clean slate for the two players. And I really, really believe that, like, it's the perfect place for them to be right now.
Interesting. Mo, I'm going to hand you off to Mo if you had a question.
Yeah, hi, and hi, Andrew. Great talking to you. And just wanted to ask you quickly, more on the same vein of those Premier League arrivals. Of the three highest profile arrivals this summer, Lukaku, Sanchez, and Mkhitaryan, who do you reckon will perform or will adapt the best, will have a more of a standout season between the three? And who do you think will probably find himself either back or onto greener pastures from the end of the season?
Well, I think Lukaku scores goals. He's always scored goals, and I would be very surprised if he doesn't score an impressive tally. I think the thing that's always plagued Lukaku, which I think is slightly unfair, is this idea that he doesn't score against the big teams. But for United, he scored against Real Madrid, he scored against Paris Saint-Germain, he scored against Chelsea, he scored a hat-trick against United, he scored against Tottenham, he scored against City. So I do think that this is one of those kind of narratives that have been kind of created about him. But ultimately, the Milan derby, games against Juventus, this is where we will judge him. And I'm really, really curious to see whether he can score in those games. But I do think that regardless of how he performs in those games, I think at the end of the season, you look at his goal tally, and I think it will be an impressive amount. despite what I said about Sanchez being, I do think Sanchez will be a success. Given the loan situation, given that he will obviously be a year older and he's been playing a lot of football, he never ever has a break. I'm still not 100% certain that they will take up that they will sign him at the end of the season, because I do think that it's obviously a lot, in terms of like the wages. I'll be interested to I'm not 100%. I'm not as sold on that becoming like an overall success that they want to take forward. I don't think it'll be a failure. Like, I think he'll do well, but I don't know if he'll do well enough that it'll be worth. I think, come the end of the season, there might be better options out there taking the club forward. And that's because I think I've got a lot of expectation on this season.
Kind of like Keita Balde last season. He did fairly all right, but not enough to merit the exercising the option to purchase, right?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. I think, if that option had been exercised, I don't think people would have been. I think it'd be a similar thing. If the option is exercised, I don't think people would be like, oh, what are you doing? You're crazy. But I also think that people wouldn't maybe miss him. I think that's a great comparison. Yes.
Alex, did you have a question for Andrew?
Sure, Andrew. Big picture in Serie A, as we've seen Inter and Napoli both improve their squads. Inter drastically improving their coaching with Antonio Conte. How much, if at all, do you think these teams have closed the gap with Juventus?
I think they have definitely closed the gap, because I feel as though if you look at sort of like what Real Madrid and Barcelona have done over the last few years, I feel as though they kind of kept the same core, and then added sort of some players, but then basically these players, this core of the team just kind of got old at the same time, and now they've kind of still got the same spine of the team. But then you see that all of a sudden there'll just be a season where they just completely implode. Now, I'm not saying that is what's going to happen with Juventus, but basically I still feel as though Juventus just kept this same core now without the Champions League success, and they're just adding players to win the Champions League. And I think the teams around them, as using the Real Madrid Barcelona example, as teams like the next best teams in Europe, the sort of cities and the Liverpools, they sort of swept up the sort of best of the rest available, if you will, and kind of closed the gap and took advantage of this, of their kind of static action in the transfer market. And I feel as a similar thing has happened in Serie A, whereas the Juventus have kept the same core. And their squad is not really rejuvenated. I think they're over a 38-game season. I do wonder whether they will be able to be as consistent. I mean, they've not won by more than a goal so far. They came very, very close. They could be on 5 points right now. Because obviously, with the Napoli game, I mean, they've been not particularly convincing at all so far this season. Whereas I feel as though Napoli and Inter have strengthened very, very well. And you think that this could be the season. I know that we say that every year, but I do believe that the gap has closed significantly now.
Right. So just before we let you go, Andrew, I wanted you to give us. We do that to everyone who comes on the first time, especially in the beginning of the season. If you could give us your top 6 in the Serie A prediction time, 6-1, and which 3 teams you think will be relegated. Who you think will win the Supercoppa, and who will win the Coppa Italia and Capocannoniere?
Okay. I know that this is tempting fate, but I do think Inter will win the title, which I've unfortunately put money on it, which now means it's definitely not going to happen, unfortunately.
Stop with the Scaramanzia, stop it. Okay, yeah.
Yeah. And then I think, Juventus, Napoli. And then, I mean, I'm trying not just to get too carried away, but I've been so impressed with Lazio so far this season that I actually think they are my pick for fourth spot. I think this could be the season that they finally do this. Napoli third. I assume the top 3 were given just not the right order. Inter, Juve, Napoli, Lazio, Roma, 5th, and then Milan. In terms of the Capocannoniere, it's a tricky one. This I'm going to back Immobile for a similar reason, because again, I've been quite impressed with them so far this season. For the Supercoppa, I think got to back Juventus. The Coppa Italia, I think Juventus will win. Will do the Coppa Italia again, and the 3 teams relegated. I can't really see beyond the 3 teams that came up, unfortunately. I think Verona, Lecce, and Brescia. I think the gap was. Yeah, I don't see anyone else. I feel as though you look at the teams who just survived last season, Genoa, Fiorentina. I think they'll be okay this season, and yeah, I think with those 3.
Thank you so much. And before we let you go, finally, what's your Twitter handle? And if you got something you want to plug, something coming up, then go right ahead.
Oh, my Twitter handle is Andrew Cesare, all one word. And it's just where I post all my stuff for just all the stuff I do on ESPN. So that's where you can find me. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. And thanks. Good to have you. And with don't be a stranger. We'd like to bring you on again.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. I'd love to be here again.
Okay. Buona giornata, Andrew. Thanks for coming on.
Ciao.
Right. Let's move on to the game that was played yesterday at the San Siro. Just under 60,000 people again. A game where Inter won, a hard-fought victory as we expected, but quite a lot to talk about. I mean, for me, watching this was just a feeling I had. I don't know if you guys agree, but when I was watching this, I was never worried, and that's something that I've never felt with Inter. Even though it didn't look too exciting, and Udinese did really well to try to stop Inter from playing their football. I wasn't worried. I just felt sooner or later the goal will come. Was I being overconfident, or would you say that was an accurate description, Alex?
You're spot on. In recent years, going down the stretch, even being up a man with a 1-0 lead, I'm usually sweating, thinking the equalizer could come at any second, right? Where in the case of last night, I'm watching thinking the second goal for Inter could come at any second. And it probably should have come at any second, if not for really brilliant performance in net by Musso, who was unbelievable. Bottom line, Nima, my overall feeling from the Udinese match was, surely it wasn't spectacular. It wasn't a particularly exciting game. Inter maybe could have and should have done better, but I certainly take the positive of another victory, another clean sheet, 9 points in 3 games, top of the table. And I think, as I alluded to, maybe one of the most underreported and underrated aspects of that match was it could have been a lot worse if not for a virtuoso goaltending performance. So it probably wasn't even quite as close as the scoreline would indicate.
Yeah, no, that's true. But I mean, having said that, Mo, do you think that maybe Inter are a little bit? I mean, this sounds a little bit premature, and I don't want to jinx it or anything. But when Conte was announced, he said that he wanted Inter to be less pazza. I felt yesterday was the most Juventus style win I have ever seen Inter give. Do you think that? Do you agree with that, or do you think that it's blasphemous even saying that?
No, I agree wholeheartedly. Just as Alex had said as well, I was just talking to a friend of mine, my Milanista friend, about the derby, and he's like, "Yeah, but the derby, everything goes out the window. You never know." I told him, look, honestly, the funniest thing about this, and like you just said as well, it's only been 3 games, so let's not get too ahead of ourselves either. But the funniest thing about these 3 games is, Inter have performed as expected. You play against Udinese, the 3 of us or the 4 of us last week with Fulvio had predicted pretty much the same sort of match where we where it's a straightforward but hard-earned win, hard-fought win. And that's what we got yesterday. Like you say, the result never seemed in doubt. The game was managed very well. Players didn't exert too much effort. Nothing was risked. Barella was on a risk for a red card. He was taken off. Gagliardini came in and performed, adequately well. it was just such a well managed game. Like you said, a very I don't want to say the word, but a very result forward, very pragmatic performance.
A very
Also,
Allegri performance. An Allegri performance. Is that okay?
I wouldn't even say though. I wouldn't even want to say that word either. But I'll tell you what. The thing is, so because I have to raise my hand and own up to things that I say in the past. And I remember last year at the same time, after a few games, when Inter finally got through their first 3 matches, I think it was against Bologna or something, when we finally started winning again. And I said, both you and I had said that we are watching Inter with a sense of assuredness that the goal is eventually going to come because the team fights until the very last minute.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember.
Yeah, I remember.
But this is exactly the difference. We don't need to fight until the very last minute. There's no need to. The match is managed so well. I mean, effectively, Handanovic had one save the entire match. There was no need for Santo Danilo to intervene, in the last second and deflect the ball off the crossbar or something. It was like you say, So yeah, I agree wholeheartedly with everything you and Alex had said. It bodes well for the season.
So, Will, what's your takeaway from this game? Like, if we look at, first of all, what's your opinion on the whole sending off situation and the situation that wasn't as a red card, the Barella, the Barella incident? Do you think it was a red card? For me, it was a little bit what we Sweden call an orange card. It could have gone both ways. Like, I wouldn't complain too much if he had been sent off, because when you go with your legs stretched out, studs showing, even I don't know. I mean, for me, it was you can call it either way. You can call either way red or yellow. What do you think, Will?
Yeah, I would be in line with you. I think I've seen that. I hate this phrase, but you've seen them given. That's kind of pointless. We've seen Julio Cesar concede a penalty for in the derby for something that was ridiculous a few years ago. Stupid decisions again. But yeah, it's a little bit orange. I don't really have anything to add on it. Yeah, we got the benefit of the doubt on that occasion.
Yeah. Does that have to do with the fact that we have the Juve approach now? That, you know what I mean? Like, is it like, basically, have we, not that we bribe referees or anything, but the fact that Inter approach these games, like I told, like Mo and Alex and I alluded to.
So we're becoming Juventus. That's the line of this podcast, is it?
No, but I mean, we can never become Juventus because we're not. But you know what I mean? Like, it's just I mean, because Conte was talking about this. I want Inter to be less pazza, and I think this is kind of part of that, part and parcel of that.
Yeah, I mean, these are the kind of wins that you tick off as a title-winning side, and without too much fuss. I think you could describe the game as a match that was won without too much fuss. It was annoying that it only ended 1-0, although I suppose we did all predict a 1-0 win pretty much last week. So everyone should have been very much aware that it would finish 1-0, because we never get our predictions wrong. But I think it was a little bit underwhelming as the first half continued. I felt like we kind of faded a little after the first 20 minutes or so. The red card was big. I mean, I don't disagree that eventually a goal would have been found from somewhere, but I don't think it would have come before half time unless De Paul had done that to Candreva. Instantly, we were linked to De Paul throughout the whole summer, and well, he's given us a hand anyway, so we didn't need to pay 30 million to get a good contribution from De Paul. Got it at San Siro. The other amusing thing, as quite a few people pointed out on social media, basically De Paul acted out every Interisti's wildest dream for the last 3 years, slapping Candreva around the head. I don't want to do that anymore. But yeah, it was very silly. It wasn't a great match. You know, we weren't fantastic. But, you know, there's a horrible sort of run of fixtures coming up. It's just a game you win. We weren't really ever in danger of losing it. I think it underlined the importance that the back three will have this year because, you know, I think we will be a side that creates a lot of chances and doesn't score them. So we're going to need clean sheets if we're going to have any chance to fight for the title this year. But, you know, with Godin's performance last night and De Vrij, there's a good chance we'll get a lot of clean sheets.
I want to say, I mean, my biggest concern when Conte was appointed was the fact that I didn't think that Milan Skriniar could adapt to a three-man defense. But yesterday, I think he showed that he's adapting pretty well. He's adapting really well, and I think if I can see a string of performances like that, then I have no problem doing a mea culpa like Mo did, because I think Skriniar for me is the most important player at Inter. He is the next captain, and I think he should be the next captain. I mean, if you sack your agent because he's taking too long and fussing about, and just take a lawyer and sign that contract extension with the club. I mean, you know, make this man a captain yesterday. Right. Before we move on, I wanted to. I mean, obviously, Stefano Sensi was the man of the match. I think we can all agree. I think that goes without saying. 75.6% of the voting people on SempreInter readers voted that. But who do you think came second? Just give me a name. Starting you, Alex.
I'm going to go with Diego Godin, who not only was solid, but also provided the pinpoint cross to assist the Stefano Sensi goal. So I didn't look at the results, so I'm not cheating on this, but I will say that would be my guess.
Cool. Mo?
Yeah, I'd agree with Alex. Godin was the second most standout performer, in my opinion, last night as well.
Will, are you going to go with, is it a Diego Godin clean sweep?
It's a hat trick for the Sheriff. I would say just who was stopping Godin from getting forward in the first half, and who wasn't there when he made that assist? DePaul.
Yeah. True.
So that instant made a huge difference.
Sure did. Godin came third actually with 5.4%. In second place, and I'm sensing a little bit of irony here, is Antonio Candreva with 6.6% of the vote.
I should have known. He took one for the team. He took a slap in the face for his team.
So I gotta say, you guys who did it. I mean, he did have a good game, Candreva, but I'm sensing a little bit of irony there. Right. Let's move on. The Champions League starts on Tuesday for Inter, as Inter host Slavia Prague at home at the San Siro. It's looking like it's going to be another sellout crowd. I mean, there's not that much. I mean, we're not going to pretend that we know that much about Czech domestic football and that we know so much about Slavia Prague. But we do know that but a couple of things we do know is that they're owned by a Chinese investment group who took over and has turned them into a top side, a title-winning side, and it's a team that hasn't lost 25 of their last games. They're unbeaten in their 25 last games, 19 of which have come in the Czech league. So this is a team that Inter need to respect, and Inter need to go out with the mentality that they had against Lecce, where they have to dominate this game from the start. What kind of I mean, Inter can't afford to drop any points here. But what kind of game are you expecting, Alex?
It's tough. I know that and Slavia Prague did pretty well in the Europa League last year also. I think I'm expecting another one of these, let's say, Allegri-like performances, the phrase that you coined, Nima. I think maybe Inter is going to save their more electric performance for the derby. That might be wishful thinking on my part, but I think it's going to be a business-like approach to this first Champions League match. I see it being won either by a 1-0 or a 2-1 scoring margin. I see I see a very cynical type approach to this match. I don't think it's going to be spectacular, but as we've outlined, maybe the theme of this show so far has been taking care of business. And I expect Conte and Inter to do that again. TCB, taking care of business.
TCB. Love it. I love how you Americans have an acronym for everything.
Yes. Well, I think, just for the record, I think I stole that one from Cosmo Kramer on Seinfeld. TCB.
I love it. I love it. The Cosmo Kramer and Allegri episode of Studio Inter. Gotta love it. Mo, no, before we actually give me a prediction and goal scorers, Alex, before I move over to Mo.
Okay. I think this is, it's tough to predict who's going to play when, but I'm going to take a flyer on Alexis Sanchez opening his account with Inter. And so I'm going to take 1-0 with Alexis.
Nice one. Mo?
Yeah, so first of all, let me just say, I don't know who calling those kind of performances Allegri-esque is more insulting to Inter or to Conte. Because, I mean, he is the granddaddy of these performances after all, right?
Yeah, true.
But I agree with Alex. I think the performance is going to be very businesslike and very physically forceful. It's very important to start off the Champions League. I mean, the euphoria of the Tottenham Icardi and then De Vrij goals last season was fantastic. But if we do want to make our mark on the season, then it should be less Pazza and more taking control, where you are the seeded favorite. And I hope that's the kind of performance that comes in. And I had predicted that Alexis Sanchez would have started off his Inter scoring record over the weekend against Udinese. He was denied by a miracle save, and I think, like Alex, I think Sanchez should get on the score sheet. I don't know whether Lukaku is going to play or not because of his back thing. Whether we might see Sanchez and Lautaro, could be. Could I mean, it looked interesting towards the end of the match anyway. So yeah, I'll say Brozovic and Sanchez for a 2-0 win.
Like that. Will?
Yeah, I think 2-0 also. I feel like Stefan de Vrij might score from a set piece. I feel like this is a game where we might need a set piece to open the deadlock. I was going to say Lukaku, but now Mo's planted a seed of doubt in my mind about his appearance in the match. So I'll say Lautaro just to be slightly more conservative. It's going to be tough though. This isn't like Udinese. Slavia Prague are better than Udinese, so the same mentality is required. And I think that the mentality will be there because that's what Conte guarantees. But it's a game that needs to be taken seriously. Slavia have conceded twice in the last 9 league games. It may be the Czech league, but that's still quite something. They won 3-0 at the weekend, resting a few players, so they'll be in good form. They've got nothing to lose. We have a derby to not think about. So there are a few banana skins that could be slipped over, but I think ultimately I hope this is comfortable. And the parallels, there are a couple of parallels with that Spurs game last year. It was the first match of the group. It's the first Tuesday. It's the early slot. It's at San Siro. I really hope the game does not follow the same pattern because I don't really think I can take another Vecino moment, as beautiful as it was. Let's just 2 goals in the first 10 minutes and just play the game out, please.
Okay, so not another Vecino moment. No, I actually think it's going to be 1-0, and I think De Vrij is going to score. I don't see Inter. I think that Inter are going to approach this game rather cautiously and try to control it and grind them down without panicking. I think that's what, in my opinion, was Spalletti's downfall at Inter, was the fact that after 2 years, the team were frantic and behaved like panicked schoolchildren every time they needed to chase and control a game, and that's something that Conte guarantees that that never happens in a Conte team. So that's why I think that it's going to be a controlled performance, and I think that a set piece, like you said, 1-0 De Vrij or Skriniar or even Godin or whoever's playing. So Santo Danilo, as Mo alluded to. So I think 1-0, one of the 3 defenders. And as Will said, Inter have a derby not to think about on Tuesday, but on Saturday we have a derby that we actually have to think about. Absolutely, and it's one of those games that I know that I'm not supposed to say this because of I don't want to jinx it, etc., etc. But I honestly, this Milan side coached by this coach Gianpaolo, and this Inter coached by this Conte, I'm thinking 4-5-0 here. Honest to God, and I've seen every Milan game. They don't look balanced. I mean, I think Inter will destroy Milan. I honestly do. I know the derby game is special and all that, but I think this is the way Milan have played and the way Inter have played. I don't know. I think I'm thinking blowout win here. I know I shouldn't say it and I should just shut up, but I can't. I honestly can't. What do you think, Mo? You had something to say there. I heard you whistled in the background.
I think I need to go sacrifice a goat or a cow to that. Goodness gracious! I mean, I'm optimistic as well, but 4-5-0.
Yeah, I'm thinking one of the greatest derby performances ever, and Conte fever will ensue completely.
Look, I'm definitely looking forward to the derby. I think the derby. I think the derby is far too soon for Milan. The timing of the derby plays so much more in our favor than it does to Milan, because Inter are so much more of a completed, of less of a work in progress than Milan currently are. And I think, of course, anything is possible. And I think I really believe, we'll leave the predictions till after we see Milan. We're recording on a Sunday afternoon, so after Milan play tonight and maybe after the Slavia Prague game. But I mean, seeing how things have progressed so far, I agree it should be a straightforward win for Inter. I hope it's a 3-0, but 4-5. Wow.
Okay, Alex. So if Mo's sacrificing a goat or a cow, what are you sacrificing?
We sacrifice chickens in Miami. This is the home. This is the home of Santeria. It's very big in these parts. You see a lot of chickens running around the streets that are not long for this world. I'm getting ready for a big sacrifice, and in all seriousness, I am beyond frightened to hear the master of the inverted jinx predicting 4-5-0 for Inter. I mean, there is no voodoo powerful enough for this. But I'm not quite as high, but I'm in line to thinking it's going to be a clear victory. I'm going to go more along the 3-1 mindset, with a Lautaro brace and probably as a couple of you have already predicted for the Prague game, I'll go with also a De Vrij header from a set piece and maybe give Milan a goal. Hoping, although I didn't predict him to score, hoping that Lukaku plays and is fit with the back and everything, because I'm just going to love watching Serie A Twitter, all the Milanisti and Interisti looking at the whole matchup between Lukaku and Romagnoli, because we've been waiting for that for months now. So I think that's going to be a lot of fun. The banter. I tend to get very tense during derbies. The one that we had last spring was with the unbelievable cup shot by Danilo D'Ambrosio to save things at the end was extremely compelling. I hope it's not that close this time around, but I do like an Inter 3-1 victory.
Right. So after goats and chickens and cows have been sacrificed to counter my jinx, what are you sacrificing, Will? What have you got running around in your parts of England to counter my jinx?
Well, thankfully, the family dog is away this weekend, so I don't have to sacrifice him. He's not actually here. Otherwise, I don't know. Maybe I can find a wasp or something to sort of brutalize.
A sacrificial wasp.
Yeah.
Love it.
Well, to kill two birds with one stone,
Oh my God.
I just was thinking about the last derby and how you spent the 2 weeks before that telling everyone that listened that Inter were guaranteed to lose, and now you've said that it's going to be the greatest performance in the history of the Milan derby. I don't know what to think. I don't know what's happened. The world has capsized. Yeah, I
It's the
cannot.
Allegri. It's the Allegri and the Cosmo Kramer effect.
When has Allegri won a derby 5-0? They're always 2-1
but
or 1-0.
the taking care of business, the kind of
Yeah. Well, that's not taking care of business. That's putting on a show, putting on a sort of a 5-star entertainment show. That's
true.
I mean, it's Saturday night, but come on. Yeah, I don't think it'll be 4 or 5-0. I think the derby is a different game. If Milan can't get themselves up for that, then they're going to get relegated basically, because that's the ultimate shame. If they haven't started well, then this will be the fantastic opportunity for them to give themselves a bit of pride. I'm not saying that'll be enough for them to get a result. I believe Inter will win, but this is in their stadium. They'll have a clean week. We won't, because we're playing Slavia Prague. This is. I just can't think that it would be that simple. It would be lovely if it did, and at that point we could start getting very excited. But we haven't seen this team yet against a quote unquote serious opponent. So it's the first big test of these teams' credentials. So obviously we saw it in pre-season. They did well, but that's pre-season. There's a lot of things still to discover about this team, and the same goes for Milan. As I said, Conte is so good at preparing these big matches that I think honestly Milan will need a bit of luck to get a result. Essentially, they're going to need a decision or an individual mistake or something like that, because everything is pointed in our favour. But come on, it's not going to be 4-0, is it? Wesley Sneijder's not here. We haven't got Motta.
Yeah, ABC di Calcio. That goal is one of the most beautiful goals I've ever seen. Right. Let's. We don't predict the derby for reasons of scaramanzia, but you've all heard now where we're all leaning. So let's move on to the part of the show where we pay tribute, rip the piss out of, and criticize someone or something in the world of football. And starting with the Moratti of the week, which we presented in his usual role by Mr. Positivity himself, Mr. Mo Nassar.
He works a lot, he's intelligent, and he surprises people sometimes with his ideas. Not easy to find one person of this qualities.
Yeah, I'm so happy to finally get back on the positivity train. It was really disconcerting last week. But yeah, no, jokes aside. Look, I want to refer to something, it's a phenomenon that happened, that has plagued us for a very long time, and it's called mediocre provincial goalkeeper turns into Oliver Kahn at the San Siro, and particularly Andrea Consigli comes to mind. But we've been for some reason, like opposition goalkeepers turn into I don't know, Zoff or whatever when they play against Inter, as was the case with Juan Musso yesterday. The guy. Yeah, what a bunch of saves! The save on Sensi was fantastic. The save on Gagliardini, of course, the ball ended up coming straight at him, but it was looping so awkwardly. It was also a pretty damn good save. So, yeah, I would like to celebrate the Moratti of this week, being that we have finally broken that duck. The case has always been that these goalkeepers, they come here, they have a career-defining performance, and we end up either drawing or losing. And it happened yesterday, but we were able to win anyway. So, jinx broken, thank God.
Nice one. Let's move on to something much more negative. This week's Moggi, which will be presented by Mr. Alex Donno.
Well, thankfully, there was a somewhat happy ending to this story in the form of a correction, but the Moggi goes to the Associated Press because, anytime you're dealing with a story as serious and as sensitive as the racial abuse that Romelu Lukaku had to suffer in Cagliari a couple of weeks ago, a reputed news outlet like that needs to make sure you get every detail correct. Now, instantly, they took a quote from Inter president Steven Zhang completely out of context, saying that, a lot of fans, when they did it, the intention was not bad, saying that he was commenting on the fans in Cagliari chanting, which is obviously a terrible look to come from the president of any Serie A club, especially one that we'd like to think is as massive as Inter. And, you know, and I've got to give you, Nima, a lot of credit, and those who were able to pick up on this very quickly, that the Associated Press didn't really source it. They said he told reporters, well, when did this take place? Are you sure the context is correct? And they did offer a correction that he was, you know, talking, I guess, about the letter from the Curva Nord. And I'll be completely honest, I still, you know, don't think it's a great look from Zhang, because I would much prefer for him to come out and just universally condemn that Curva Nord statement, because it was absolutely embarrassing and it was absolutely a farce. But still, for a story this serious and a story this sensitive, and, you know, I do know people personally, they don't cover that sport, but I know people in the States who work for the Associated Press, and I know how seriously they take their jobs and how important their job is. So for any Associated Press reporter to get something like that just so blatantly wrong, it's very unfair and very embarrassing. And I'm incredibly glad that they did, under a little bit of pressure, but they did offer the correction. So thankfully, the happy ending was to be had.
Nice one. Yeah, I agree. I mean, I was talking to the guy who wrote it, and he said, you know, and I told him that the tweet, the caption of the tweet, and the content of the article don't make sense, because in the article it says that he was talking about the Curvas fans, whilst the caption says something else. And either way, you know, I heard the entire audio, and for me, it is, if I think it was a dishonest way to portray it, but. Again, you know, happy ending, and you know, I think we should give a shout out to Graham Dunbar and the AP Sports for admitting their mistake and changing that. But by then, it was about 24 hours too late, and every media outlet in the world, from NBC to USA Today to Yahoo, had already said that Inter's president was defending Cagliari fans for making monkey chants, which is absolutely disgusting. But yeah, I mean, you know, as you said, you got to get it right. The damage was already done. Right, let's move on to something much more comical. This week's Frog, which will be presented by Mr. Will Beckman.
È clamoroso! Autogol di Ranocchia!
Yeah, I feel a little bit cruel with this Frog, because it's kind of riffing slightly on somebody's pain, but I don't think he's too upset about it in the grand scheme of things. I think we can get away with it. Vincent Kompany, who's a lovely man, speaks incredibly eloquently, was an incredible servant for Manchester City during his time in the Premier League. Spent, I think, what would it be, 11 years there, won 3 Premier League titles, or 4 even, I should say, 4 Premier League titles. He had his testimonial earlier this week, which was something that was arranged, a match between Man City legends and Premier League legends at the Etihad Stadium. The City have done lots of nice gestures for him. They've commissioned a sculpture to be built outside the Etihad, and they've renamed a road inside their training complex. They've called it Vincent Kompany Crescent, which is quite nice. The proceeds from this match have gone to a charity which he set up to tackle homelessness in Manchester. So why is he the Frog? Well, he missed his own testimonial due to injury.
Jesus Christ.
You know, and that's the story of his last 4 years. You know, he hasn't played more than 17 league games in his last 4 seasons at City. So he never played. He missed over half their league games in his last 4 years there. He was always breaking down at the wrong moment. And he said it himself. He said, it's typical of me to be injured. So, you know, it's a little bit unfair, but I don't care, because, you know, the grand scheme of things, he's still got a good life. And he had a nice evening, and there was a lot of money raised. But it's just a little unfortunate.
True. I sent this to you, and this story didn't make the Frog of the Week. But for me, I'm thinking about renaming the Frog of the Week to this story and what the story was about.
The AK-47 of the week?
Yes, the AK-47 of the week. And I'm going to explain to you why. Basically, there is in a lower Russian ice hockey league, it's not football, there's a team called Izhevsk, VHL Izhevsk. And there is a video going around after a game where the chairman of this club is inside the dressing room, and he's holding a AK-47, an actual AK-47, or a Kalashnikov. I'm not sure. I'm not a weapons expert. And he calls the captain of the team, and he gives it to him. I don't speak Russian. I had someone translate this for me. And then the captain of the team says something, and then he goes over and hands this machine gun to the goalkeeper. Basically, they have decided that after every game, the players will choose who they think was the best player of that game, and the winner of the winner of the previous game will basically give him and present him in front of the team this AK-47. So basically, for the entire season, this AK-47 will circulate within the team after every game. That's the story, and it's so funny. And apparently the reason for this is Izhevsk is the capital city of the Western Russia Udmurt Republic, and it's known for its Kalashnikov Museum and its exhibition of complex of small arms. And it displays weapons and documents in Russian arms trade. So, yeah, that's a way that, you know, there's. I mean, I know in U.S. sports you have MO, you know, in all sports you have the man of the match or the MVP of the game, and you give people a little, you know, I don't know, a bottle of bubbly or something. But no, we're giving people the AK-47 of the week. I think that is absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, I cover hockey. It can be a very violent sport, but this is taking it to a whole nother level, right?
Can you imagine Antonio Conte handing Stefano Sensi this AK-47?
That's bigger than him.
Yeah. He wouldn't be able to hold it. It's so heavy.
He tilt over. The guy's practically a Smurf. Right. No, I think this is brilliant. And there is footage of this video of this online circulating. You have to see it. It is absolutely brilliant. And it's a real AK. Like, it's not. It's an actual goddamn gun. So, assault rifle or whatever. I think it's absolutely brilliant. It's weird. It's very Russian. And I love it. I spoke to my Russian friends who they don't react to it. They just think it's so Russian. So I thought it was hilarious. Right, that was all we had time for this week. I'd like to thank Andrew Cesare Richardson for coming on, and also the host of Alex Donno Show, Mr. Alex Donno.
Great having me as always, and hopefully next time we're talking about a Champions League win and a Derby win.
From your mouth to God's ears. And and Mr. Mo Nassar, we're looking forward to your previews this week.
Great having me as well, I'd like to say. So, no, I mean, a big week. Super excited. Hopefully we have our next episode is just as cheerful. So, yeah, forza Inter.
Hope so. And Mr. Will Beckman?
Buon derby a tutti, including you, Nima. I hope you've not jinxed us.
Thank you so much, and so do I. I will be obnoxiously arrogant next week if we win by 4 or 5-0. I'm just saying. Right. Let's. That was all we had time for this week. This is Nima Tavallaey wishing you all 6 points, 2 wins, and sempre e solo forza Inter.